Blake Lively, again, attempting to dismiss the $400 million lawsuit her former co-star Justin Baldoni has filed against her.
What if the perfect Hollywood couple wasn't so perfect after all? What if behind the red carpets and smiling selfies, there was a secret so messy it dragged in fake evidence, leaked recordings, and even ex-CIA agents? That's exactly what happened when Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' legal drama exploded. This isn't just a celebrity scandal, it's a full-on meltdown. And once the truth started slipping out, there was no stopping it. Let's break down the chaos they never wanted you to see. The collapse of a manufactured lawsuit. Everyone in the courtroom knew right away that Blake Lively's 180-page case wasn't really a lawsuit, but rather a script written for the news. This case was different from most, because it was full of dramatic accusations, emotional flair, and pages of public posturing. It seemed like it was begging for camera time. Legal experts noticed right away, not because it was strong, but because it was painfully clear. There was more show than content, more drama than proof. Blake's team didn't build a strong court case. Instead, they built a stage that was so weak that it would fall over from the weight of its own lies. Judges aren't inspired by fame or long complaints that are meant to take attention away from the truth, and Judge Lyman saw right through it. The moment he read the statement, he knew exactly what it was. A legalized PR stunt meant to change public opinion instead of going after justice. Even worse was how desperate Blake's team got when they were asked to show real proof. They didn't cooperate. Instead, they did something so illegal that it shocked everyone in the courtroom. They asked for an attorney's eyes-only protection order. This would have kept the judge, the other lawyer, and even the suspect from seeing what was inside. It is not often that someone asks for something like that, but in this case it was clear that it was an attempt to hide something dangerous. Only one thing is clear when you don't let people see important documents. You're hiding something that you know won't last in the light. It was quickly stopped by Judge Lyman, who reminded the people in the courtroom that justice is public and doesn't favor popular people. Blake's team wasn't done trying to cheat the system, though. News started to spread that they were said to have offered an unbelievable $100 million to hide important proof. Not to give up, to not make peace, but to bury. That's not a payout. It's a reaction to the panic. People don't give you $100 million unless what you're hiding is big enough to destroy everything. But the damage was already done. It didn't matter how much money was put on the table. As soon as Judge Lyman turned down the order in the game, he took control of the case from the people who were trying to plan their way to win. He called the case what it really was, a PR circus, in a cue that was heard all over the world. It was more than just a burn. That was the end of all trust. The disaster for the public, the law, and the person is happening right now, and there is no way to undo it. Blake had spread a legal myth in the hopes that no one would pay much attention. She built it on lies, set it up for the media, and used secret files and behind-the-scenes power moves to try to keep the truth from coming out. But the court isn't like Hollywood. It doesn't take away from the real world. It draws attention to it. Everything she tried to hide came out faster than her team could cover it up when the attention was finally turned back on her. Things were getting out of hand with the story already, but what was going to happen next would make things even worse because there was still one piece of proof that could not be hidden. It could not be erased by any PR stunt, legal maneuver, or amount of money. A recording of sound, not filtered, not edited, not no doubt. And once the world heard what was on that tape, it wasn't just her case that crumbled. It was everything. The leaked audio that ripped her story apart and exposed Hollywood's dirtiest secret. The leaked audio that destroyed everything. As if Blake Lively's legal problems couldn't get any worse, there was a leak that not only changed the case but also took off the mask totally. In the middle of all the noise, rumors, and denials, one thing finally stood out. A live audio recording of Ari Emanuel, who is one of the most powerful agents in the entertainment business. It wasn't a rumor. It wasn't spin. It was solid proof of a harsh truth that could not be hidden by a PR firm. Ari didn't just talk easily on the recording. He let everything slip. He said it straight out. Justin Baldoni wasn't on the watch list because he did something wrong. He was quietly shut out of Hollywood because he was connected to Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. He was turned down for projects and missed out on chances. That news alone threw the whole case into chaos. It wasn't about fairness, it was not about the truth. Power and how far some people would go to keep it was at stake. As soon as that tape got out, the story changed overnight. Baldoni had been seen as the problem and the bad guy by Lively's side, but now it was clear that he was the target. The podcast show that had the recording before it disappeared almost right away. It was live one day and gone the next, as if it had never been on the site. However, both the internet and the courts do not forget. It was already too late. The recording was like a key that finally opened everything for the lawyers. They didn't just hear rumors. They heard proof of the kind of reputational damage that turns cases into full-on legal wars. It wasn't just a guess anymore. It was proof that someone was trying to mess with things on purpose. It turned out that the people who were meant to be the victims were the ones who were pulling strings behind the scenes and firing shots. Efforts to play down the leak failed. Lively's team tried to find out more about the time, the source, and even how the information was shared. That didn't matter, though. The sound was real. It was easy to understand. It was clear what the goal was. It was accepted as direct evidence in court after experts proved that it was real. Everything Blake's complaint stood for began to fall apart when that one recording was played. People who worked in Hollywood and had been quiet for months started to say what everyone else already knew. The sounds didn't just disagree with Blake's story, it broke it up. Her whole case was based on a story of harm, but the tape showed that it was just an attempt to gain power that went too far. It showed how people with connections could change jobs, hide bad names, and stay clean while other people got caught. For Baldoni, it was a big change. The recording did more than clear his name. It made it possible for someone to fight back. He had every reason and right to turn the case around and fight back hard now that he had such a strong tool. The balance changed. The compassion turned around. And Blake Lively? Now that she was backed into a corner she had to defend herself. The sound didn't have to scream to be loud. It didn't have to be exciting to hurt. It just had to be there. It can't be pushed back into quiet now that it's out there. All of a sudden, every reason her team gave seemed less good. Their plans started to fall apart one by one. Since the truth was finally spoken, it was clear that the whole case was based on false information that couldn't hold up. The internet caught fire while Blake's team worked hard to limit the damage. The news spread. People shared clips. The public's view was once unclear, but now it was clear. This was not another case involving a famous person that went badly. This was an attack. A full public breakdown of a fantasy that was carefully put together. How Blake's lies unraveled her entire case. The leaked tape made her look like a fraud, so Blake Lively tried to draw attention to the one thing she said would prove everything. A video of Baldoni that she called upsetting, emotional, and the end of her career. It was the last blow she was going to deliver. The truth that could not be denied. But when the full clip came out, people weren't shocked. They were shocked. Because the video showed Blake herself looking calm, laughing, and fully taking part in the scene she had called traumatic before, not because of what Baldoni did. That one moment ruined what little of her evidence was left. There was no need for legal experts to argue about it. One lie can bring down a whole case, and this was more than just a lie. It was the opposite of what really happened. What she said was one thing, but what the video showed was quite another. That kind of paradox is not only bad, it's deadly. The story falls apart right away when the case is based on feelings, and the proof shows comfort instead of pain. It got worse when she tried to clean up. Blake changed some parts of her original statement in her revised complaint. She did this to try to change the story after the video got out. But changing a statement doesn't get rid of the first one. It just shows where the change was made. There she was, caught changing the facts when they didn't fit her story. No longer was she someone who might have overstated. That move alone put her in even more trouble. and the people, the press, and the court could no longer trust a word she said. She needed help because her own story was falling apart. Then, 2 unknown actors were brought in as mystery accusers to back up her claims. But instead of helping, they showed yet another layer of lies. No names were given to these people. They were not part of the formal papers. They didn't even get names. There were no affidavits or written statements. Instead, media outlets spread vague descriptions. If these witnesses were real, they would have been in court, not making the rounds of talk. Big news sites didn't want to cover it. They wouldn't put the accounts out there because they couldn't be checked. Even sites that had been on Blake's side before turned against him. The Hollywood Reporter, which used to print her story, didn't even report it the normal way. They leaked the information in a way that didn't involve their name. When the news stops covering a famous scandal, it's not because they're tired of it. They do this because they know something bad is going on behind the curtain. Public relations companies that used to fight to defend her began to keep quiet. It was clear behind the scenes that her story wasn't going to work. The witnesses weren't really there, the story didn't make sense, and the help she used to get from important insiders started to slip away without a trace. Everyone slowly pulled away, hoping not to go down with her. You could feel the shift. The charge that Baldoni was too nice was what got her in the most trouble, though. As a last-ditch effort to show him as a liar, her team put out HR complaints, saying he was too nice and positive, and that urging people to end emails with warm messages made people feel uncomfortable. What was the charge? Too much positivity. That was the word, not abuse. Certainly not anger. Being nice. It was the kind of twist that people would have laughed out loud in a real trial, and that's what happened in public. What was meant to hurt Baldoni's reputation turned into a joke. People didn't come together to support her. Instead, they slowly turned away. Blake wasn't just losing a case at this point. It was her last chance to leave with her image still intact, her connection to the public and her hold on reality. Each move she made took her further down. Every claim was proven false. The court of public opinion wasn't just looking, it was also listening. And just when you thought the chaos had peaked, secret messages, deleted files, and Taylor Swift's name blew everything wide open. The CIA couldn't even save them. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds weren't just scrambling when the fake witnesses and skewed proof fell apart. They were drowning. Even more proof of how out of hand things had become was when they brought in troops from the intelligence community instead of Hollywood. Not people who work in PR, not people who spin, former CIA agents. There are trained people who can erase truths, change stories, and hide scandals that not only ruin lives, but also change history. It's not normal, it's not even extreme, to hire former intelligence officers to handle a celebrity problem. These are the people in charge of cleaning up the government. They know how to delete data, change news stories, and make people forget what they saw. Still, they were not able to fix this. The landslide that had already started to roll downhill could not be stopped by any secret plans. Just being there made people in the business raise an eyebrow. What did Blake and Ryan really want to hide if things were that bad behind the scenes? It didn't matter who was the best. They couldn't fix the holes. Not long after that, that became clear. A lot of PR companies stopped working there. Sloan PR, which is known for handling issues for famous people, dropped out of the case because it was too big. They took a quick, quiet step back to show that not even they could save Blake's picture. When a company whose job it is to handle public disasters leaves, it means the story can't be fixed. Then everyone changed their minds. There was no longer any support. Memes broke the silence. Memes turned into full-on snark. Every day, social media pulled Blake and Ryan down even more, turning them from respected heroes into living proof that power doesn't always mean safety. In record time, they went from being safe to being found out. Every time they tried to fix their image, it got worse. And the red flags couldn't be ignored when they tried to block Taylor Swift's private texts. The sudden rush to stop those texts made things even more dangerous. They would have been the first to leak those messages if they showed Blake's side was telling the truth. They didn't, though. They fought to keep the doors shut. Lawyers knew right away what that meant. Those texts weren't helpful. They were bad for you, possibly very bad. Analysts think that those messages show backdoor influence, with leaders being pushed, stories being shaped, and names being kept secret. It's no longer just a shock. Fame is being used as a tool to control what the world sees, so it looks like a planned operation. But while they scrambled to control the narrative, Justin Baldoni was preparing to flip the script entirely, inside a courtroom. Because now, with the truth on his side and the public behind him, the real fight was just about to begin. No escape, no redemption. The courtroom was no longer a place for justice. It had turned into a stage where every lie finally fell apart. The judge had seen enough. No longer did the stalling, the sealed files, or the star shielding work. As the case turned into a show instead of a search for the truth, his patience grew thin, and when he changed his tone, the whole business heard it. It wasn't about fame here. The way people saw you couldn't protect you. And all the charm on the red carpet couldn't change the truth. The media picks sides, but the judge doesn't. A quiet peace was Blake's team's last card. That was way too late, though. The damage wasn't just happening to court documents anymore. It had spread around the world. Not only was her image hurt, it was burned. There was no need for a ruling to make people feel what they did. What the people thought was already the sentence, and it was harsher than any judge could have made it. She tried to change the game in many ways, but they all failed. The fake movie didn't work out. The press made fun of the witnesses who didn't give their names. The audio recording showed how the business was being manipulated. It made people even more suspicious when they tried to hide Taylor Swift's texts. Her plans fell apart one by one, and not just in court. Everyone could see it. Even if she finds a way to make peace, it won't change what people already think. She lied, she controlled, and she got caught. It wasn't just her that was hurt. Ryan Reynolds built a huge business based on being adorable, relatable, and the guy that everyone liked. He is now stuck to the wreckage of his empire. It's no longer just her fall. It's theirs too. This kind of thing is remembered in Hollywood. It's risky for brands to use names that cause trouble. When people lose trust in executives, they don't call back. And trust is the only thing that neither Blake nor Ryan has left right now. Studios that used to think of them as safe bets now see them as risks. There is no longer any smiles, headlines, or movie parts. There is only silence. At the same time, the person they tried to erase, Justin Baldoni, is higher up. There are many ways for him to win his slander case in court, and each new piece of evidence makes it stronger. There is proof for him. He is making progress, and people like him. It was first a defense, but now it's an attack. He doesn't have anything to hide this time. It turned out that the truth was stronger than any story they wrote. The judge may make the final decision, but the damage has already been done. Careers that used to be based on being in charge are now failing because they are too open. The thing that was meant to be a weapon turned into a boomerang. They fired the first shot, but they didn't expect it to hit so hard. This scandal isn't over, and you won't believe what's coming next. So like, share, subscribe, and click the next video popping up on your screen to dive even deeper into Hollywood's darkest secrets.